All right, welcome everybody for this NetSuite for software companies webinar. This webinar is on-demand webinar, meaning that it's pre-recorded. But anyways, you're still able to send out the questions to the chat, and we will do our best to reply to your questions as soon as possible. So my name is Petteri Matikainen, and I'm a business development manager in Staria. And I have Andrei Postolache here with me, who is working as a senior solution consultant for NetSuite.
Hi everyone, Andrei here, calling in from Bucharest, Romania. I'm a pre-sale solution consultant here at Staria, and today we are going to see and talk about the benefits that NetSuite brings for customers operating in software and services industries. I would like to begin with an overview of the top 10 of those kind of benefits. Of course, there are way more of those. I just consolidated them into 10 categories. Basically, NetSuite, the first ever cloud-based business management suite, offers quite a few benefits for each industry. Mainly, NetSuite provides a unified platform that integrates various business processes, including financial management, project management, CRM processes, and more. This integration helps software companies streamline operations and improve their overall efficiency. Now, the platform also offers real-time visibility into the key performance indicators of the business and the key business metrics that you need to trace on a daily or even hourly basis. This enables software companies to make informed decisions and based on up-to-date data, which is also very important because this enhances agility and responsiveness to the market. NetSuite financial management capabilities help software companies manage their finances efficiently. They include features such as revenue recognition automation, billing and automated billing schedules, financial planning, and ensuring accurate and compliant financial operations, and much more. Software companies often work on multiple projects simultaneously, and NetSuite's project management capabilities allow companies to plan, track, and manage projects in an efficient way. It helps in resource allocation, project budgeting, monitoring project execution progress, and of course, profitability. For software companies that offer subscription-based services or products, NetSuite's billing module simplifies subscription management and recurring billing. This is crucial, of course, for handling complex pricing structures and managing subscription renewals in a seamless way. NetSuite also includes a robust CRM system that helps software companies manage customer relationships, track sales opportunities, and provide excellent customer service. The centralized customer data enables a holistic view of customer interactions across the organization. Now, software companies looking to expand globally can benefit from NetSuite support for multiple currencies, multiple languages, and compliance with international financial standards. This facilitates smoother operations in different regions and markets. As software companies grow, NetSuite can scale with them. The cloud-based nature of NetSuite allows for easy scalability, accommodating the changing needs and size of the business. It also allows for automation of repetitive tasks and processes, giving its users more time for more value-added activities, reducing, of course, manual effort and eliminating any errors and mistakes. Additionally, the platform is highly customizable, allowing software companies to tailor it to their specific workflows and requirements. And finally, NetSuite places a strong emphasis on data security and compliance. This is particularly important in the software industry, where sensitive intellectual property and customer data needs to be protected. NetSuite's cloud infrastructure is designed to meet industry standard security and compliance requirements, And by leveraging these features, software companies can enhance their operational efficiency, improve their financial management, and of course gain a competitive edge in the dynamic and competitive software industry. Now let's have a look at all of the above mentioned and more areas where NetSuite can bring in value for software-based businesses. So I will stop sharing my presentation and let's jump into NetSuite right away. So first of all, I'm going to give you an overview of NetSuite system, like a quick product tour. It is to mention that there are a lot of areas to be discussed, and we are open to have deep dives and the dedicated demonstrations for our customers based on their needs. So this is going to be a pretty quick tour of the system, highlighting the key areas for the different roles within software companies. Firstly, every user, regardless of their role, would start their experience with NetSuite by logging into the system. And once they do that, they are being welcomed into a so-called home dashboard. The dashboard provides NetSuite users with a variety of information at their fingertips, depending, of course, on the type of access those users have to the respective structure of the company and the type of the data. Now, the home dashboard consists of the different portlets or widgets. Different widgets carry different type of business information with them in a different format. Some of them are graphical, some of them are in text-based format. First of all, users can opt for a different layout of their dashboard. It can be a single or a multi-column layout. And then basically they would customize or personalize their look and feel of the system by dragging and dropping additional content and configuring what they want to be displayed on their dashboard. A few examples of the key elements that most of the users are using inside NetSuite would be, for instance, the reminders portlet that allows us to bring in all the things we would like to keep an eye on our daily routine, right? We want to trace, for example, transactions that are subject to our approval, like expense reports, journals, or any other transactions depending on the business process. We can trace different exceptions. For instance, in this particular case, I am observing that I have 11 invoices that are over 50,000 in value and are older than 30 days. Probably that would help me solve my maybe actual cash flow issues. So I can follow up in a second. I can open it in a new tab, for instance, or just click through and drill into that particular reminder and see exactly what are those exceptional transactions and take action on those. Additionally, we can assign tasks to other users and they can see those in the reminders and so on and so forth. Users can create, by the way, their own reminders in order to control what kind of content they want to track. NetSuite is packed with reporting elements, components, and KPIs are one of them. KPIs obviously can be visualized on the graph. There are, by the way, two types of KPIs: standard, that come with the system out of the box, and custom, that users or power users in NetSuite can build by themselves. That's a non-technical task, so any business user familiar with basic reporting concepts should be able to build those kind of KPIs. Now, what we can do with a KPI, obviously, we can plot it on the graph and choose to do that in a different, visualization way. We can report on it in a different time frame, and of course, we can combine several KPIs on one graph portlet. By the nature of KPIs, if they are less analytic and more like operational, we can track them in so-called KPI meters. As you can see here, we just choose the KPIs that we want to visualize, and the system shows up the numbers for their respective key performance indicator. The system can also interpret the trend of that KPI, if it's, let's say, a good position or not a good position, and change color accordingly. As you can see here, we are looking at expenses, and this benchmark actually shows me the previous month. So this is like an actual number is 4.8 million pounds of expenses currently, while in my previous month to date I had 4.5. So I'm slightly over. That's why it's already color coding it into yellow. If it goes over, then it may be also colored in red. While here in the payables, you can see I'm below the previous month value, which is obviously a good sign that my liability is decreased. So also NetSuite has this capability to interpret the nature of the data of the KPI. Then we have the options to visualize KPIs in a more text-based or semi-graphic format. As you can see here, I have KPIs brought from the different corners of the business. I have bank balance next to my pipeline deals, again, speaking about CRM components, revenue and deferred revenue, and any other components that I may need. We can at any time track the progress of a certain KPI by just clicking on that arrow and again observing how the trend evaluated in time. And also users can set it up, as I said before, by themselves. They can control what content is displayed. It's a user-friendly interface. They don't have to write any kind of formulas. So you either add from a bunch of those standard KPIs available with the system, or you add from a set of custom KPIs built within your organizational account. Then you just choose the reference period that you want to observe the KPI against. And again, you can see there is no need to write any kind of formula. This is all human language. And once those reference periods are picked, then NetSuite is smart enough to properly bring and navigate the data and visualize it to your dashboard. Also, we can group KPIs by their natures. By their nature, in this case, we're looking at a financials KPI scorecard, where you can see that most of my KPIs in this example are of a financial nature, since I'm logged in with a CFO role. And I can observe the trend of these KPIs, basically produce the snapshot values for the different reference periods. Speaking about of scalability and the international span of NetSuite, most of NetSuite customers are having more than one company managed within NetSuite. NetSuite can handle pretty vast organizations in terms of company structure and geographical span. As you can see here in the top, I have my subsidiary navigator, which depicts the structure of the group that I have set up in this account. So NetSuite provides me also with the ability to consolidate my financials right away in the system without having to export it to a different platform and manage that data elsewhere. Now, I can also observe what is happening in a particular legal entity. So with a click on Japan, for instance, you can see that my entire dashboard has refreshed, and now all my KPIs, graphs, reminders, and KPI meters show me the numbers of that legal entity. And please also observe the currency. Japanese subsidiary is configured to account in Japanese yen, so that is why my KPIs are now presented in Japanese yen. If I fly over to my Irish subsidiary, I will see again the data is being updated now in euro, showing me the performance of that legal entity in euros. In this particular account, consolidation is configured in 2 steps, or in 2 levels, better said. So we consolidate our regional numbers in Americas, EMEA, and JPAC. In this case, if I go into Japan Pacific area, I consolidate the numbers in Australian dollars. So NetSuite can automatically show me consolidated view of both Japan and Australia, both being translated into Australian dollars. And then back to my group level view depicting the whole picture of the group of the companies, which is represented in pound sterling. Now, all the data that you see on the dashboard is live, is real-time data, which is another key point I have mentioned before. It comes from NetSuite's real-time multi-dimensional ledger, to which all the transactions are being posted and to which they have immediate impact. And that allows us to actually drill through the data and get down to the lowest level possible of the data in the same system. So if, for instance, I want to see my revenue, what's behind this number for my current revenue, I can just click on it, and then NetSuite will drill into the underlying report, which in this case is profit and loss, since I clicked on the revenue, and that's where it is being presented. Now, this is the P&L. You can see the subsidiary context is consolidated. I can produce my P&L for April for, let's say, the Japan entity, and I will see now how my Japan entity performed, and also please note again the currency. Also, we can use that multi-dimensionality of the ledger. We call those dimensions segments. These are used to slice and dice business and financial information around the different pillars, so to say. We can use subsidiary as a dimension, for example. So I'll just also change the filter to this fiscal year. So what I'm going to run now is a consolidated P&L for full 2024 so far, right, up to date, divided by subsidiary. So in this case, I will see my consolidated, so each subsidiary represented in consolidated currency. And for example, Japan, that we have just observed in Japanese yens, I will see its revenue now translated in pound sterling, because this is my consolidation currency, and the number will show me the values for 2024 up till now. We can have additional dimensions. So standard NetSuite comes with 3 segments. Besides, of course, subsidiary, it comes with the department, class, and location. We can configure an unlimited amount of additional posting dimensions to the ledger to basically allow you to analyze profitability or performance of any customer categorization, the line of business, geographies, or any other dimension or product category that you would like to track. If I take, for example, the class, in this case, I will look at my profitability by line of business, and you can see my company is providing a wide range of different products and services. So from consulting all the way to hardware and software sales, and we are able to analyze these separately in our financial statement. Moreover, we can actually click through the data. So if, for example, I want to observe, I can see that under my admin expenses, I have some numbers under hardware. So I can see I have 17.3 thousand under my hardware related expenses. I can click that number right away in my financial statement and see the exact list of the transactions that have contributed to the balance of that account. And with one more click, the CFO of a global company can get to the lowest level of, let's say, reporting, if I may call it. It's basically the transaction itself. So with the 4th click of the mouse, I reached out from my home dashboard to the actual bill or the purchase invoice where I have purchased some hardware, and that's why it has been reported under my hardware related expenses. As you can see here, we are collecting the classification or the segmentation on the transactional line level. Now, consolidation is real time, and you get all those reports out of the box relating to consolidated profit and loss and balance sheet, both consolidated and not. We will also talk about additional things during the month-end process in a second. Nevertheless, NetSuite is also packed with lots of other standard reports to support your accounting and a daily routine. We are talking about trial balances and intercompany management, of course, with the intercompany elimination, because this is a normal part of financial consolidation in NetSuite. So we have both intercompany reconciliation and elimination reports, which help us to basically highlight any mismatch within the intercompany process. Additionally, NetSuite automates the currency revaluation because it allows us to trade in multiple currencies. And here we have an automated report, realized exchange rates, gains and losses, where basically, as an example for today's webinar, I have created an invoice backdated on 25th of March when we had basically the invoice is booked against the United Kingdom subsidiary, which accounts in pound sterling, but it's booked in foreign currency, which is euro in my example, and this is the exchange rate that the system has recorded for the transaction. If I look in the related records of this invoice, I will see that I have two of them. So we have a payment record that we received today when the currency exchange rate has been probably different, because that's why NetSuite has created this currency revaluation. So it revalued the impact of currency exchange rates between the payment date and the transactional date, and that can be observed directly in the report right away. So I have my invoice booked in March where I had my exchange rate of 0.8, and basically the payment came in April with a different exchange rate. So the currency revaluation transaction has booked a realized gain loss of this amount due to the difference between the exchange rates, and this is basically my gain. The same is applicable for unrealized exchange rates when at the month-end process we revalue open unpaid foreign currency transactions. This is also an automated process inside NetSuite. Now, what else does it have to offer for finance people? Well, Cash 360 dashboard, basically some cash flow forecasting. We can see the cash flow forecasted by weeks in this case, right? We can see inflow, outflow, and the forecasted balance of our cash. We can look at it in a more detailed way with components from inflow, right, what we are expecting to receive, and also any outflow elements and the calculation of those. Also, NetSuite helps automate your fixed asset accounting, basically the entire process from asset acquisition, creation, depreciation, reporting, sales splits, and revaluation, of course. So if we look at an asset record, we can manage its, you can see that it's, we have it linked to the purchase transaction. Again, all of the entities and transactions in NetSuite are linked between themselves. We can see when it has started to depreciate, what is the original and current cost of the asset, the status. We can also observe a depreciation history of the asset, and also we can manage lease accounting for operational and financial leased assets. For accounts receivable, NetSuite offers full functionality when it comes to aging your customer invoices. We will talk about billing in a second. Now, invoices, once they are created automatically or manually within the system, they will age out automatically. You can see an AR example of an AR dashboard with relevant KPIs with the aging of those invoices by, you know, we can have a customer balance aging or an invoice individual tracking. AP in a similar way, we automate end-to-end AP processes, including purchasing, like the procurement process with POs, receipts if needed, the matching with those, and of course accounts payable, payment processing, and in order to keep in balance your accounts payable on site. Finally, and of course, this is only to scratch the surface, NetSuite helps you to automate the month-end process by following a checklist. So basically, in order to close any period in NetSuite, you have a checklist with a set of steps you have to undertake in order to properly close the books. First of those steps would be to lock your accounts receivable, payable, and by the way, if you click in the step specifically, you'll see you are able to do that for the entire group or only a subset of subsidiaries. Speaking of that, if my role wouldn't, for instance, have access to a certain set of companies, I wouldn't be able to visualize or interact with them. So we can control what users have access to what companies and what they can do within those legal units. And then once you lock all the accounts, basically you have a natural flow of step-by-step different accounting routine tasks. Depending on, again, this list can vary depending on the features you have enabled and the modules you have in use. Basically, some of the key steps is, of course, foreign currency transaction revaluation, revenue recognition, and consolidation, basically calculation of consolidated exchange rates and the elimination of intercompany transactions. Also, for software companies, NetSuite can offer automation of revenue recognition. So whenever we need to defer the revenue, depending on whether we sell subscriptions, whether we deliver services within our projects, we have the capability to do that. And I'll just show you a few of the reports that explain how that can be tracked. So basically, if we look at the billing and revenue summary, because these processes go in parallel within NetSuite. So one thing is to invoice the customers, and then it goes into accounts receivable. And another way is to recognize the revenue based on the performance obligations and their fulfillment. In this particular example, we have both of them represented by customer. So in my case, customer Belderma, they have multiple transactions. They have some sales orders, invoices, and even projects, right? And again, NetSuite's revenue recognition can handle multiple different use cases and pretty complex use cases sometimes. So we can see here a very good summary of per each contract or performance obligation. We can see a summary of the total amount, the amount invoiced, the amount recognized, and the amount deferred. So we can see all that in real time as those transactions are being processed. Another example is to look at the revenue recognition forecast. Once we create those contracts, even if we don't yet invoice, they are not necessarily related, we can already plan the revenue to be recognized, and we can see that by revenue arrangement, which basically mimics our revenue, our contract from revenue recognition standpoint. Also showing by the deferred revenue account, we can see a waterfall report showing us by monthly what are the expected amounts for us to be recognized in the future. So of course, it requires some more deep dive discussion about the different use cases. But just to summarize, NetSuite has the capability to automate your revenue recognition process independently from your invoicing process and tie that to different use cases, contract conditions, and of course, depending on the nature of the items and services that you are selling. Now, for project management organizations and for companies, for software companies that are project focused and have projects to deliver, both internal as well as to their customers, I will just change the role to the project manager. Let me close a few of these tabs. So First of all, you can see the dashboard of a project manager looks different from the one of a CFO, right? I have different reminders from the previous example, basically timesheets that we can approve. So NetSuite can track the entire end-to-end project execution, from resource scheduling of the project all the way to time reporting, time approval, and of course accounting for that time. We can have a project portfolio dashboard that shows all the projects that are assigned to me as a project manager, and I can click through and deep dive into those projects, see how they perform, basically visualize a project dashboard with key performance indicators related to, for instance, budget versus completion, team details, project related documentation, client contact. I can look into the resourcing part of my projects, obviously visualizing the Gantt chart and where we are currently with the Gantt chart, seeing the resource allocation, being able to assign resources using different skills of those resources, right? And letting the system recommend me what are the best resources I should assign based on their availability and the skill matrix. Also tracking milestones, timesheets, utilization of my resources, tracking budgets and completion of those budgets, even with a more detailed view on the type of those, analyzing billing and revenue related to the project, and also, of course, the profitability of the project. Speaking of the profitability of the projects, there are multiple out-of-the-box reports we can provide. One of them is this one that shows us, for instance, budget versus estimated at completion versus actuals. That's a pretty busy report with a lot of data in it, but basically it shows the overview of each project. Again, it's a real-time number, so we are talking about budgets versus revenue versus budgeted revenue. We take actual and committed costs, and again, we can track, for instance, a purchase order raised within a project is a committed cost, but an actual cost is when we actually get the purchase invoice. The same applies to the revenue. So we can see full detailed profitability analysis, and we can expand it and look at it by the different components. Of course, we can drill into that data, which will show, will open up the actual transactions that have contributed to either our expenses or the revenue side. Now, for SaaS businesses in particular, NetSuite's billing capabilities can provide. Let me just go into the dashboard here. So, for instance, we can manage subscriptions. We can create them at different points. We can create them from CRM transactions. And if, for instance, we would look at our active subscriptions, I will open up an example transaction, a subscription record, where we manage multiple areas, for instance, like our customer and billing account, the billing frequency, and the plan of the subscription that defines what components we are including in our subscription. We can have one-offs, we can have recurring components, we can have usage-based billing, right, with variable usage. Here is where we define the pricing for those. We can have tier-based, volume-based pricing, one-time and recurring pricing. We manage automatically renewal of our subscription, and we can actually see that this subscription has been already renewed once, and we can control the frequency, the reminder policy of those renewals, and if we want them to be processed automatically. The subscription change orders are actually tracking what are the changes that are applied to our subscriptions. So you can see we have activated it in the past, then we have increased or decreased pricing again, tracking upsells, downsells, and also it has been renewed. Now, since in NetSuite everything is related, you can see that related to my subscription records, I have my charges. These are the building blocks of an invoice. We have already transactions, so basically some invoices generated within this subscription, and the revenue elements, which are actually those components of the revenue recognition logic that automate the revenue recognition of our subscription. The billing of the subscription is automated, so typically we schedule the billing operations. When you schedule those, you can define, give the schedule a name, you give it a frequency, you define how often and when it should run. Typically, you would run your billing generation in off-peak hours, especially if we are dealing with higher volumes of transactions. And then basically once this is scheduled, so you can define it by company, you can within a company define a customer category or a group of customers for which you want to run this bill run, and then let NetSuite just do the job. It will look into all those charges that it has to invoice to the customers and compile them into invoices and send them automatically to the customers. And of course, account for those invoices in accounts receivable and do this revenue recognition in parallel. In terms of reporting, we obviously have monthly recurring revenue reports, which is one of those standard reports coming with NetSuite billing, where we can see that our subscription, in particular here in April, it recorded an upsell, right? Remember, I showed you there is a price change, and from 18 we raised it all over to 2,800 of a recurring fee, and that's how it's displayed onwards. We have reports like total contract value and even billings to date. All of the reports available within NetSuite can be easily customized, so you can define the structure of those reports in an easy manner and ungroup them in the way that is needed. As an example of how to customize a report, for example, a financial statement, right? I'll take that classic P&L example, right? Let's say I would like to have a comparative year-by-year report. So in this case, I'm looking at my profit and loss, and all I need to do is to click customize. I'm just going into editing the columns, and I can add some budgeted numbers here. We also support budgets, tracking budget versus actuals, or I can just add another amount field next to my basic amount and say I'll rename this column to be called the previous year amount. So all I need is to tell the system that based on the report date, it should show me last fiscal year in this column, right? And then I can add a formula field and say this field should calculate the difference between current year and the previous year amount and show it in the percentage value. So now if I preview my report, you can see I have a year-by-year comparative P&L. I am running it for this fiscal year, so I have numbers for 24 compared to 23. Again, this is consolidated. I can choose a different subsidiary context, exploded by different dimensions. If I run it, for example, for my last fiscal year and refresh, you'll see I have 23 versus 22, the numbers, right? And then of course they can publish it as with a different name, as you know, Andrei's comparative profit and loss statement, for example. Now, another cool thing with NetSuite is its analytic workbooks. It's like reporting a BI layer, an analytic layer on top of your real-time transactional database. You don't need to extract the data somewhere. You don't need to wait for it to be processed in a different shape. You are ready to analyze it right away. So for instance, I can look, remember we discussed projects and time. Since I have the data in the system, I can analyze it in a more pivotable and graphic way. So I have here a workbook, which is nothing else than a collection of pivot tables and graphs based on a set of data. and I decided to analyze my time that has been posted by the different employees in different departments with respect to different projects. So this is my data set, and I can analyze it in a very user-friendly way. Anyone working with pivot tables in Excel would be familiar with this interface. So we just drag and drop the fields and columns and measures that we want to look at. And in this case, you can see I have an analysis of time spent by the different projects based on the different billable items. I can, for instance, track on a graph billable versus non-billable time by the different quarters or weeks or even days. I can then save these workbooks. I can publish them to different audiences, and also I can add them as components on my home dashboard. And of course, it also applies to subscription analysis, and any data that you have within your ERP system can be analyzed in this analytic workbook interface right away. So summarizing before we move into a quick Q&A with Petteri, NetSuite has plenty of functionality and value to offer to software companies, from managing their financials, streaming their revenue process, all the way to billing, CRM activities, reporting, AP, AR, and much more.
Thank you, Andrei. I have collected top 3 questions from the customers, and they were made by my colleagues. And I feel like you covered a lot, or at least on some areas of those questions, but I will ask them anyways. So let me know if you're ready. I'm ready
sure.
for my question. So number 1 question is that usually, apparently, the revenue management is quite challenging in SaaS industry. So you were talking about the revenue management a little bit, in my belief, in your demo. So how can NetSuite help in that area?
Yes, indeed. Revenue recognition is a pretty tough topic, and for example, for companies that operate in multiple different geographies, the requirements can differ. For instance, IFRS 15 has one set of requirements, and in US GAAP, for instance, you may have ASC 606 requirement, and NetSuite can support with that as well. It can support with multiple step of revenue allocation based on fair value pricing, and VSOE in case that is needed. So NetSuite can handle very complex revenue allocation and recognition scenarios.
Thank you. Question number 2. How does NetSuite manage the subscriptions?
Well, that's a point we, as also the previous one, we need to discuss on a case-by-case basis. In some cases, subscriptions are the subscription model of the customer is relatively simple. In that case, there is no reason to overcomplicate the case, and we can address that with even without the NetSuite billing module. In other cases, when there are multiple components, fixed, recurring, variable usage, then we need to scope it down and see exactly what's the best solution. Nevertheless, there are multiple options in proceeding with those, and just reach out to us, and we will recommend you the right solution based on your needs.
Thank you, Andrei. My last question is about the reporting, and I saw you showed us a lot of different KPI possibilities and other custom possibilities. So the question number 3 is, what reporting capabilities does NetSuite offer?
Yeah, so besides the ones that you have seen, like standard, we have KPIs, we have financial statements, There are saved searches, which are a very powerful tool in NetSuite, and from them you can create reports, you can create reminders, and you can also create custom KPIs, as I also mentioned. We have Suite Analytics workbooks with NetSuite. So this stack of reporting components can fulfill a lot of reporting needs. One thing I would like everyone on looking at this webinar to remember is, as long as you have the data inside NetSuite, you can report on it in a multitude of ways. And we at Staria, we also have a product called Navilog, which is our BI and planning solution that is integrated to NetSuite. So if you are looking to have more extensive planning and simulations and what if scenarios and budgeting process based on your NetSuite actuals, Navilog will help greatly. This is the platform where you can actually take your actual data from NetSuite, but clean, robust ERP data, take it into a planning and analytic environment, and then of course then it's, you know, it's the limit is your fantasy and the creativity in terms of reporting.
Thank you, Andrei. I think we are done from this session, and I shout out a big thank you for Andrei once again coming to tell us more about NetSuite, and especially for software companies at this time. And thank you for everybody who has been watching this recording. And if you have any questions, if you didn't dare to ask yet, just send us an email or drop a question to the chat box, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Just remember, we are one click away. Reach out to us, and we are happy to engage and discuss in detail each of your cases and recommend the best solutions.